Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Nutrimedical Report with Dr. Bill Deagle. My name is Ryan Frace, and I'll be filling in for Dr. Bill. Dr. Bill's got some stuff he's taking care of today, so I'm going to be talking more about the NutriMeds line of products, which is Dr. Bill's premier line of nutraceuticals that he recommends. And as you know, if you listen to the station regularly, obviously, you go to Nutrimedical.com and basically you can become a subscriber, and Dr. Bill does free consultations. So if there's questions that come up during the show and about particular products and whether or not they're the right things for you, then Dr. Bill is more than willing and happy to help you to get a proper protocol established with what your current needs are. So we like to kick the show off with different topics that are common for most people in dealing with solutions that are natural-based and help people kind of break the cycle of dependency on a lot of things that are medication-wise that maybe aren't doing them all that much good. So one of the things that I would start out with today, and that the wind howls by me, is allergies. It seems to be it used to be what's known as seasonal allergies, and that's no longer the case. It's sort of year-round allergies for a lot of individuals, and Dr. Bell has some theories on regards to certain issues as to why that is, and why our immune systems aren't being able to handle kind of these normal challenges. Where I live, the example would be cottonwood trees. As you can see it blowing by, it looks like snow in the air, but a lot of people have a great sensitivities to it. And so we have to deal with more of our ability to handle our environment. You can't live in a bubble. I know I actually worked a long time ago, years and years ago, with a specialist who actually knew patients that lived in porcelain trailers out in the middle of basically deserts because they were so environmentally sensitive. And I know there's a lot of you probably listening that say, I would like to sign up for that program because you get so frustrated with your reactions and sensitivities and what you quote, I'll put quotes, air quotes, around allergies. And so I want to bring up a couple things that might be some good solutions. First things first, vitamin C is a critically important nutrient for people in dealing with immune system regulation and battling off, pathogens and being able to keep our immune system humming along normally. And so when people also get exposed to a lot of allergens, they're burning up their vitamin C, and doesn't stay around in our bodies for long periods of time. That's why we're supposed to eat lots of fruits that have vitamin C in it so that we can replenish these things. Now, the nutrient that in the Nutrimedical line that Dr. Bill likes to talk about, Power C Plus. Most vitamin C's out there are just basically ascorbic acid, and you're like, yeah, it's vitamin C. That's all I need to take. But the fact is most people don't absorb that very well, and there's serious consideration as to whether or not you absorb anything higher than 500 milligrams at any given time just because it's so acidic in nature. Power C Plus has some serious advantages because it's using what's called a mixed mineral ascorbate blend, and so rather than just using straight ascorbate, it's mixed with other minerals like calcium, magnesium, potassium, and sodium. You may recognize those minerals because those are the minerals that are established for electrolyte balance in the body. But by using them in Power C Plus, you get a neutral pH product, and so you can absorb it at a much higher rate. And it's also 750 milligrams of vitamin C is per capsule, but at the same time it's enhanced with a nutrient known as bioperin, which is a patented black pepper extract. And by putting that in there, in human trials they've done with bioperin, they've shown an enhanced absorption of vitamin C by 40% into the blood. And so with the enhanced absorption of bioperin and the neutral pH, Power C Plus allows you to take vitamin C at either low doses for just a, kind of a daily regimen, or very high aggressive doses for when the immune system is in a much more challenged state, like during allergy season, or maybe there's a cold or flu situation that you're trying to deal with. So keep that one in mind. When it's seasonal allergies, I think Dr. Bill would tell you a lot of people should look at Allerblock. Allerblock is it's a multifaceted herbal formulation that's designed to stabilize what's called your mast cells. These mast cells, when they get basically triggered by, let's say it's that cottonwood blowing through the air, or for you, maybe it's, some type of pollen, and it triggers your mast cells to degranulate and release histamine, and so you get the runny nose, the itchy, watery eyes, and there could be rashing and things like that. When you use Aller Block, it uses different nutrients, quercetin, a substance known as dihydroquercetin, which is a much more utilizable version of quercetin for the body, rutin, bromelain, stinging nettles. A lot of these things basically inhibit the mast cell from breaking down, but also at the same time they slow down our mucus production, so we're not just spewing out and going through a Kleenex after Kleenex after Kleenex. So between Aller Block, the Power C Plus version, those are two really nice ones when people deal with seasonal allergies. There's the version of in the Nutrimedical line for people that suffer not just seasonal allergies, but more environmental sensitivities. This is a formulation, Allergon, which uses an enzyme known as diamine oxidase, or DAO. And DAO is pretty new to the United States. In Europe, it's a much more commonly used enzyme. But our body produces DAO, diamine oxidase, as a way to regulate histamine in our bodies. And so histamine comes from foods that we eat. It comes from foods that can liberate histamine, and that means releasing histamines. Some things like that could be, like tuna fish, for example, can be a histamine liberator. But other foods, they just have high histamine content. That could be things like red wine, or it could be things like chocolate, or aged meats and cheeses oftentimes have high histamine. But this new formulation, Allergon, the enzyme is allowing you to lower your total histamine load in your body, and so that your body's not constantly just reacting to sort of everything under the sun. And I think people know who they are out there. Sort of like, at one point in my life, I seemed to be able to eat anything, and as the years have gone on, my diet is, basically shriveled up, like a snowman in July, and next thing you know, you're stuck on, chicken broth, chicken and white rice or brown rice, and that's about all you can consume without triggering some kind of response. So that would pretty much point you in the direction that it's not a seasonal allergy type challenge. You're probably dealing with the fact that your body has a histamine intolerance going on. And the good news about this is if you can restore the function of your gut, as well as the enzyme production of diamine oxidase, what oftentimes happens is these quote-unquote allergies are not really allergies. They go away. They're histamine intolerances that when your body is working normally, it can proceed and you can expose it to things like a little bit of wine here and there, or cheese, or different substances, and all of a sudden you're not just throwing yourself into a state of chaos. And I hope that's good news for a lot of people out there, because that's a lot about what Dr. Bill is preaching. Is build up your body's ability to handle the environment in which it lives is a much more enjoyable process than just being thrown around right and left by the environment, and you're just slamming every drug known to man to try to fix the problem. And what it really comes down to is building up your resiliency so that you can live in this world. And it's not an easy thing to do. Our food sources are depleted. We're being exposed to more chemicals than anybody can possibly count. And all the chemicals that have been developed, certainly in our country, in the United States, have been tested for their safety against animals. You know what they haven't been tested for? Their relevance in being combined with any other chemical in the environment. That's not something that's required. So we're all living in a giant petri dish of an experiment, and I think that's why you can see that a lot of us get challenged by one thing or another, and we need these extra resources that the Nutrimedical line provides in order to bolster up our defenses. So with that being said, then it's a huge area there. The other thing that I think people should be aware of is energy production. Oftentimes, this is one of the top things that people are asking. What do I do? How do I enhance my energy? One of the first things, if you're over the age of 40, look at CoQ10. And when you use CoQ10 Supreme, there's the ubiquinone or ubiquinol versions of both available in the Nutrimedical line. But you can use the either one of these, and basically they're ultra-absorbable because they don't have the crystallization issue going on with them. And so by getting a lot more of the CoQ10 into your body, you're able to raise those plasma levels and really drive the energy production. This is important for the heart muscle and all cells in your body to have adequate amounts of CoQ10. So with that, we'll be back in just a little bit for the next portion of the year. We're in the middle of discussing, the benefits of proper digestion. And some simple things besides, saying, hey, I need a different nutrient to utilize, you've got to slow down when you're eating your foods. So we go back to the animal kingdom. Animals that are running around being chased by something and being stressed out are not the ones that are eating anything. And with us, it's the same thing. Even though we can shove food down our mouths, our bodies are not prepared to digest it. So a couple quick steps. One, stop, sit down, even if you're in your car, and just wait. Wait 1 minute. And just remember, you're about to eat some food. You'd like your body to actually consume it, break it down, and use it for fuel, rather than it just being a burden that you have to throw in so you can hurry up to whatever it is, soccer practice or something else for your kids. I know how it is. I've got 2 young ones myself, and it's it's not easy to do. The other thing is be mindful of the food. Know that the things you're eating are meant to be fuel for your body, to build it up. And when you can take a hamburger from a fast food restaurant, literally, for the most part, don't get it with any mayonnaise. You can just put the burger and cheese. But you go to the most popular fast food restaurant in America, you order yourself one of their cheeseburgers with nothing on it. Don't eat it. Actually, order 2. You can eat 1, all right? It'll be probably the last one you eat. Take the other one home, and you and your kids can do an experiment. Put it on the top of a cabinet or, somewhere fun that you can watch it, top of your micro just sitting there. Just watch it day after day. And, just mark down when you start seeing it growing mold. On the bread or the meat or when it starts really smelling weird, try that out. I know because I've seen somebody put a very popular hamburger out, and it was 7 years old when I saw it, and I thought it was new. I was like, I didn't understand why somebody's lunch was sitting out. I said, no, it's just an experiment. We're just on year 7 with it. And what the point of that is not that you're not going to eat that at some point here and there. The fact is it has nothing inside of it that fuels your body. It's all dead. It's all been stripped down so that it's very stable to mass produce 1 billion times a year so that you'll consume it. Are there calories in it? Yes. Is there anything nutritious about it? No. So your tummy feels full, but your body is starving. And so oftentimes people go, I never feel like I'm really full. And a lot of times it's like, well, you've never really actually eaten any food. You're consuming empty calories. So that's a part of the empty calorie scenario. So let's talk about when there's dysfunction, though. So slow down, enjoy your food, hopefully real food as much as possible, and limit. Do small amounts of the stuff that has no benefit for you, okay? You just do it in small amounts, you're going to be okay. So first things first, if you eat food, though, and you feel like you're just got a brick, in your stomach, you're not breaking your food down properly at the stomach level, most likely you're going to end up with things like gastroesophageal reflux disorder, GERD. You're going to feel like you have too much acid, which is a bit ironic. In a lot of cases, you're not overproducing acid. It's underproducing acid, and you're not breaking down your food properly. So you're not closing, the sphincters around your throat properly, so you're getting a little bit of acid that makes your throat burn and not feel well. The irony to this whole scenario is products like Digest-Ease. So if you're feeling these kind of symptoms within about an hour and a half of eating, what you need to be looking at, like I said, chew your food really well, slow down. But 2, you can add in Digest-Ease, which is 2 forms of hydrochloric acid. That's right, I said acid. Adding acid actually can be a benefit because remember, most of you are highly stressed. When you're highly stressed, you're not looking at, your body is not producing more acid. It's very rare. You might have a histamine reaction that causes you to produce too much acid, but very rare are you truly just a hyperacidic person. That's not the case. So what you want to do is you add the acid. It also has a little bit of pepsin and gentian root. These 2 things, one helps with protein breakdown, and gentian root is soothing for digestion, but it's also known to help with the protein cells from the stomach to produce acid. But what it's doing is it's adding acid. Anywhere from 1 to 6 capsules per meal. Dr. Bill can help you when you do his consultations, decide what the appropriate dose for you. But by adding the acid, you're going to break down your food properly. And so that way, when it leaves the stomach, it goes to the small intestine, it's in its right form. It needs to be in a very broken down time, they call it. Basically, it's like a soup. It has to be really broken down because there, when you get to the small intestine, that's when enzymes need to gobble it up the rest of the way and then transport it into your system where that fuel is supposed to be used as building blocks, all right? And so Digest-Ease will really help a lot of these people that are stuck. with digestive issues that happen the first hour and a half of eating. I do want to note, for those of you that are out there and you're taking products that are supposed to suppress acid, you're like, hey, it gets rid of my symptoms, I feel better, I can eat like a kid again, or whatever ad scheme they have on, lately. Have you ever noticed those ads for people with digestive or reflux disorders? Have you ever noticed where the people are eating? Pizza parlors, the state fair, the giant rack of ribs and stuff like that, right? It's like they got to get like Larry the Cable Guy to show you like, yeah, see, I'm one of you. Like, okay, first, if you're eating that kind of food, it's probably making you feel sick because it's not that good for you anyway. So take that as a note. It's probably not the right kind of fuel. It's like putting leaded or diesel fuel in an unleaded tank, right? That your car will not go. And so take that as first and foremost a note. But if you are stuck and you're using these acid suppressive type products, something that you can think about using is GastroHeal. Doesn't mean you have to stop taking whatever the medication is that you're using. If your doctor prescribes it, you should use it. Talk to Dr. Bill and work with your primary care doc. But GastroHeal is a really neat formulation. It's actually a combination of zinc farnesene, been used in Japan for some 20-plus years as a medication there. And it's very soothing. It works on contacts that's chewable. So for erosions, including ulcerations that occur in the stomach and so forth, it's very helpful for the healing process. What's really neat is this whole gastritis where people feel terrible and they're having to use all these acid-suppressing products. This just works like wonderful to get the GI tract back working like it should and repair any damage that's going on. So it can be used, GastroHeal, right on top of using these other types of acid-suppressing products if that's who you are. Otherwise, if you haven't gone down that road and you're looking to kind of get your digestive balance back in store, start at the beginning with Digest Ease and chewing your food properly. And then if symptoms occur a couple hours after eating, and this would be more like gas, bloating, foul-smelling stools, food particles are in your stool, that tells you that there's probably an enzyme difficulty in your body. And so look at something like Gastrozyme, which is a 100% vegetarian enzyme blend, very powerful to break down all different forms of our foods to make sure that it's properly broken down. And so Gastrozyme is very easy. It's just a capsule. You can take it basically at the start or the middle of the meal and help to break that food all the way down so that it gets into these small diantripeptide forms. That means the intestinal tract can take it across, use it, build muscle, make your brain work, make you feel good, and do all the right things. So those are really nice, easy ones to work with. Living Probiotic Ultra, though, is a probiotic formulation that day in and day out, we're always losing good beneficial bacteria in our gut, and we usually eat and drink things that benefit the bad guys in our stomach and our intestinal tract. So use Living Probiotic as an alternative to make sure you're getting good population of bacteria flourishing in your GI tract for long-term good health. We'll be right back. We'll be talking about some new topics when we get back. Welcome back, everyone. Nutrimedical Report, Dr. Bill Deagle. I'm Ryan Frace, filling in for Dr. Bill today. Dr. Bill's getting some good vacation time here, and I just left you off with, we were just going to move into the topic of joint health, and finishing on that last part about digestion and making sure that your gut is working properly. I want to mention a couple things. Living Probiotic was that daily probiotic, 5 billion organisms per single capsule. Great thing to use. You can open up the capsule and put it into juice or into some food very easily, because a lot of the food products, when it comes to probiotics, they're dramatically lacking active amounts of cultures. So when you take in a yogurt, for example, oftentimes you're vastly overwhelmed by the amount of sugar that's in them. I mean, I don't know if people are reading these labels or not, but most of these yogurts carry anywhere from 10 to 18 grams of sugar. And they're tiny amounts of yogurt, so I mean, literally they're more potent in sugar than a Coke. And so you got to watch out for what you're putting in there. Try to get a sugar-free source, and you're looking for fermentation. You're looking for good bacterial counts. So one of the things you can do is fortify your food. So take Living Probiotic, make it really easy. Open it up, sprinkle it in cereal that your kids eat, so forth. Help them. Be more creative with what you're delivering to yourself and your family, It's not that difficult to do to help fortify your food and your drinks. The Living Probiotic Ultra, I wasn't able to mention this, but this is when the gut is really having dysfunction and you're saying, hey, look, we're being overrun, with bad guys here. You all remember many years back, some of you, think it was a great idea. Others wasn't sure, but it was called the surge, right? It was when the government decided that we're going to put a whole lot of troops into an area that really needed to get rid of bad guys. What happened? Overwhelmed the bad guys, right? Drove them out, right? And then I think you know how the story, is kind of finishing off. Apparently we've decided whatever that area was is not worth defending. So imagine your own gut. You're like, well, it's really not worth defending, so I'm not going to keep soldiers in there. That's what a lot of us do to our own intestinal tract. So think of it like a war zone, because it is. There are trillions of bacteria in our intestinal tract. If they took it out and weighed them, even though they're invisible to us, if they were to weigh them, they would weigh over 3 pounds. And so all these little bacteria are living in there, and there's a precarious balance that must be met, just like anywhere. Any culture we live in, right? It's the same story. There must be a proper balance going on, and generally we like to think you got to have a lot more good guys than bad, and that keeps things a lot more civil, right? So you take Living Probiotic Ultra. Why? It's 100 billion organisms per single caps. Very easy, again, to open up and use with from kids on up to the elderly, so it's no problem at all. So keep that one in mind. That's when you really need to, create the surge in your own gut to flush out and deal with the pathogenic organisms that can overwhelm you and get that dysbiosis going on. The other one that's in there is Gastro Cleanse. Gastro Cleanse, I like to think about as sort of a bouncer. He is a very specific, big, powerful probiotic. He actually is Saccharomyces boulardii. And Saccharomyces boulardii was actually discovered in the lychee nut many, many years ago by a man named Henry Boulardii. And they found out that when the locals, this was in Vietnam, had intestinal problems like diarrhea, they would eat the lychee fruit. And inside the lychee fruit, when they analyzed it, they realized that, hey, this bacterium is very powerful at seemingly stopping, a problem. And so what's called Gastro Cleanse in the Nutrimedical line is actually Saccharomyces boulardii. And in just 2 caps, they're tiny little capsules. Again, you can open them up if you need to. But in 2 tiny little capsules, you'll get over 10 billion of these organisms, which would be a therapeutic dose. And what's neat about Saccharomyces is it's literally been studied in infants as young as 2 months of age in hospital settings with diarrhea on up into the elderly. And it is actually something that in many healthcare facilities for aging populations to inhibit C. difficile type of problems that they'll want to use probiotics like Saccharomyces boulardii. So whether you're traveling into odd areas, you got to get dental work, you'll be visiting the hospital, rest homes, retirement centers, C. difficile is something that's quite rampant, and it's easy for us to defeat it, really, in our own bodies. Maybe we can't get it off all the countertops and every surface. But again, remember, as I started this out at the top of the hours, it's about our body's adaptation to our environment. Okay? You can be victim all you want. You can say, hey, we're just overwhelmed with bad things, bad guys. It's a tough break, so I'm just going to be sick. You don't have to be that way. That's what Dr. Bill's trying to inspire, I think, day in and day out, is to say, hey, look, you can up your defenses. You can change the way that you react to your environment. And we all know we can do it. You just got to have the tools. And so hopefully the Nutrimedical report is helping each of you to find that place for yourself and your family. So let me move over to joint issues, because there's nothing worse than losing your mobility. It really becomes a life-threatening issue. Not at the early age, but if you lose your mobility as you get older, you start sitting around a lot or you're bedridden, it's not good news. Your body will literally fall apart fast. And doctors used to tell you, when you hurt yourself, remember these days, you'd hurt yourself and they'd be like, hey, just, lay in bed, elevate your leg, or we'll put it in a cast and you just sit there. I guarantee anybody that's listening right now that's had a problem, doctors aren't telling you that anymore. They're like, as soon as you can, I need you up and moving and walking and going. Even if you've got to drag that cast with you, I don't care. Move. Because your body literally breaks down. If you want to stimulate osteoporosis, they're like, oh, no, I don't want osteoporosis. Lay in your bed for 7 days. It literally jumpstarts osteoporosis. That's why astronauts, when they go to outer space, there's such an issue with them and bone loss is because if we don't have that gravitational banging on our bodies all the time, it's bad for us. Isn't that funny? We actually need to pound on our bodies. They need to be stressed. The good Lord designed us this way. He wants us to be pushed. When we stress our systems, it causes growth. It causes us to re-nourish our bodies. And when it comes to joints, I'll bet a lot of you don't know this, most of your joint tissue, there's no circulation to the joint. Did you know that the only way that you can cause circulation to the joint is mobility? You have to move it. And if you don't move it, there's nothing it can do. So when you go, oh, you know, this area of the body's hurting me, this area is the body, it doesn't mean you have to go run, but you need to stretch. You need to move it all the time. It needs to constantly get movement. Otherwise, it can't flush out waste products and absorb nutrients. So let me give you some specific nutrients that have been very helpful that are newer formulations in the line. Joint performance. So if you're a person out there that's starting to notice that, you know, the aching joints, you don't have to be categorized as, say, osteoarthritis. It's the early stages of what's going on. Maybe you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, and you're like, you know, I used to do pretty darn well going out there on the weekends and playing soccer or football or whatever it is. Now, what is going on? I'm like breaking down. It's true, you're breaking down. You don't have to. So joint performance is a formulation that carries what's known as xanthohumol, an herb, out of hops, hesperidin, another herb. Both of those are really nice at bringing down causes of inflammation. And then it also has what's known as haljoint, which is a material that's been shown in clinical studies to stimulate hyaluronic acid. What that means is it allows the joints to basically have a lot of fluid and to be frictionless. So we need that frictionless aspect going on between our cartilage and our bones. It has to be like ice on ice.